The subtle dance of deception, recognizing insincerity and cultivating inner strength. Have you ever extended your hand in genuine friendship, only to find it met with a closed fist of indifference, or worse, subtle manipulation? In the intricate tapestry of human relationships, discerning sincerity from artifice can be a daunting task. We yearn to believe in the inherent goodness of those around us, to trust in the authenticity of their words and actions. Yet, the world, as we often discover, is populated by individuals who skillfully mask their true intentions, weaving intricate webs of deception that can leave us wounded, disillusioned, and questioning our own judgment. This essay delves into the subtle art of recognizing insincerity, exploring 7 telltale signs that someone might not be as genuine as they appear. Beyond mere identification, however, we will embark on a journey of self-discovery, drawing upon the wisdom of Stoic philosophy to cultivate the inner strength and resilience needed to navigate these treacherous relational waters, protect our hearts, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and peace. Recognizing these signs, however, is only the first step. True empowerment lies in understanding why such behavior exists, how it impacts us, and most importantly, how we can cultivate the inner fortitude to remain unperturbed by the insincerity of others. Drawing upon the profound wisdom of Stoic philosophy, we'll explore practical strategies for detaching from a need for external validation, embracing self-reliance, and cultivating an unwavering sense of inner peace that transcends the fickle nature of human relationships. This exploration will not only equip you with the tools to identify insincerity in others, but also guide you on a transformative journey towards self-discovery and the cultivation of unwavering inner strength. By understanding the motivations behind deceptive behavior and embracing the principles of Stoic philosophy, you can navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. This essay, therefore, is more than just a guide to detecting insincerity. It is a roadmap for cultivating a resilient spirit, a testament to the enduring power of self-knowledge, and a celebration of the profound beauty of genuine human connection. We often find ourselves investing emotional energy in relationships, only to realize that the other party isn't as invested, or worse, is actively undermining us. How can we protect ourselves from such emotional vampires? How can we cultivate the inner strength to remain true to ourselves, even in the face of duplicity? This is a question that has plagued philosophers and individuals for centuries, and the answers, while not always easy, are profoundly liberating. The challenge lies not just in identifying these behaviors, but in understanding their roots and developing strategies for responding with grace, wisdom, and unwavering self-respect. It's about learning to see the world with clear eyes, to accept human nature in all its complexity, and to cultivate an inner fortress of strength that cannot be shaken by the winds of deception. It is a skill that can save us from heartache and disappointment, allowing us to cultivate relationships that are built on genuine connection and mutual respect. But recognizing insincerity is only half the battle. The true challenge lies in managing our own reactions, in refusing to let the negativity of others poison our own hearts and minds. It involves understanding our own vulnerabilities, recognizing the patterns that make us susceptible to manipulation, and developing strategies for setting healthy boundaries. Ultimately, it is about cultivating a deep and unwavering sense of self-worth that is independent of the opinions or actions of others. This journey begins with awareness, but it culminates in empowerment. The power to choose our relationships wisely, to protect our emotional well-being, and to live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. 1. The absent friend, when need meets indifference. Have you ever poured your heart and soul into a friendship, offering unwavering support and genuine care, only to find that when you needed that same support in return, your calls went unanswered, your cries for help met with a wall of indifference? It's a deeply painful realization, one that can shake our faith in human connection and leave us questioning our own judgment. The sting of betrayal is amplified when it comes from those we considered close. We invest our time, energy, and emotional vulnerability in building these bonds, hoping for reciprocity and mutual support. But what happens when that support is conditional, only offered when it benefits the other person? What happens when the sweet words and kind gestures turn out to be a mere facade, masking a self-serving agenda? It's a question that echoes in the chambers of our hearts, leaving us with a sense of profound disappointment and a lingering fear of future betrayal. This isn't just about feeling let down. It's about the slow, insidious erosion of trust, not only in others but also in ourselves. We start to second-guess our ability to judge character, to discern genuine intentions from manipulative tactics. This self-doubt can be crippling, leading us to withdraw from relationships, build walls around our hearts, and ultimately miss out on the beauty of authentic human connection. The pattern often emerges subtly. Initially, the individual appears attentive and supportive, readily offering assistance and lending a listening ear. They might even express admiration for your strengths and accomplishments, creating a sense of camaraderie and mutual respect. However, over time, cracks begin to appear in this carefully constructed facade. You start to notice that their support is often contingent on specific circumstances, offered only when it aligns with their own interests or when they perceive a personal benefit. When you find yourself in need, their availability mysteriously diminishes, excuses multiply, and the once warm connection grows cold. The never there when you need them sign is particularly insidious because it often masquerades as genuine friendship. The person might offer superficial gestures of support, such as a quick thinking of you text or a perfunctory offer of help, but when it comes to truly showing up and providing tangible assistance, they are conspicuously absent. They might claim to be too busy or dealing with their own issues, but the underlying message is clear. Your needs are simply not a priority. But it's not always a conscious, malicious act. Sometimes it stems from a deep-seated insecurity or a lack of empathy. The person might be so preoccupied with their own struggles that they're simply unable to see or respond to the needs of others. Or they might be driven by a fear of vulnerability, hesitant to offer support lest they be perceived as weak or dependent. Whatever the underlying cause, the effect is the same, a feeling of isolation and abandonment. This is where Stoicism offers a profound perspective. Stoicism isn't about becoming emotionless or indifferent. It's about understanding the nature of human relationships and cultivating inner strength. One of the core tenets of Stoicism is the concept of control. We can control our own thoughts, actions, and reactions, but we cannot control the behavior of others. Expecting others to behave in a certain way, to meet our needs, is a recipe for disappointment. Instead, Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can control, our own character and our own response to adversity. It teaches us to detach from the need for external validation and to find our sense of worth within ourselves. This doesn't mean that we should tolerate mistreatment or remain in relationships that are harmful to our well-being. It means that we should approach these situations with a clear and rational mind, understanding that the behavior of others is ultimately a reflection of their own inner state, not a reflection of our worth. It's about recognizing that their absence, while painful, is ultimately a gift, revealing the true nature of the relationship and allowing you to reevaluate your investment. This allows you to release the expectation that this person should be there for you, and instead, accept the reality of the situation. Acceptance in Stoicism is not about resignation. It is about seeing the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Once you accept that this person is not capable of providing the support you need, you can begin to redirect your energy towards cultivating relationships with people who are genuinely present and supportive. You can also focus on developing your own self-reliance, learning to meet your own needs, and becoming your own best friend. You might even find that by detaching from a need for their support, you inadvertently create space for them to step up. Sometimes, People are simply unaware of their own shortcomings. And by gently communicating your needs, you might give them the opportunity to grow and become a more supportive friend. However, if their behavior persists, it's important to protect your own well-being. This might mean setting boundaries, limiting contact, or even ending the relationship altogether. It's not about being vengeful or spiteful. It's about prioritizing your own emotional health and creating space for relationships that are nourishing and fulfilling. The key is to act with compassion, both towards yourself and towards the other person. Recognize that their behavior is likely rooted in their own pain and insecurities, and that holding on to anger and resentment will only perpetuate your own suffering. Instead, choose to forgive, not necessarily for their sake, but for your own. Forgiveness is about releasing the emotional burden of the past and freeing yourself to move forward with greater peace and clarity. It is a powerful act of self-care that allows you to reclaim your power and choose a different path. Remember the story of my friend. He was always there for this certain lady friend, but when he needed her, she was nowhere to be found. That's where Stoicism can act as a shield, protecting our hearts from the sting of disappointment. By understanding that the behavior of others is ultimately beyond our control, we can relinquish the expectation of reciprocal support and instead focus on cultivating our own inner resilience. This involves developing a strong sense of self-worth that is independent of external validation and learning to meet our own needs with self-compassion and resourcefulness. It is about transforming disappointment into an opportunity for growth, using it as a catalyst to deepen our self-awareness and strengthen our commitment to self-reliance. This requires honest self-reflection. Are you consistently the giver in the relationship? Do you feel drained or resentful after spending time with this person? Are your needs consistently overlooked or minimized? If the answer to these questions is yes, it's time to reevaluate the dynamic. Stoicism also teaches us the importance of setting boundaries. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They're about defining what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior in your relationships. They're about protecting your own emotional and physical well-being and ensuring that your needs are respected. Setting boundaries can be challenging, especially with people we care about. We might fear hurting their feelings or damaging the relationship. However, healthy boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships. They create clarity and respect, allowing both parties to feel safe and valued. Remember, true friendship is characterized by reciprocity, mutual respect, and genuine care. It's a dance of give and take, where both parties feel supported and valued. If you find yourself consistently giving more than you receive, it's time to step back and reassess the dynamic. This understanding allows us to approach future relationships with greater discernment, choosing to invest our time and energy in those who are truly worthy of our trust and affection. It allows us to see that the loss of a conditional friend is not a tragedy, but an opportunity to create space for relationships that are built on genuine connection and mutual respect. The Stoic approach doesn't advocate for cutting ties abruptly or harboring resentment. Rather, it encourages a gradual distancing, recalibration of expectations, and a redirection of energy towards more fulfilling connections. It's about recognizing the limitations of the relationship and adjusting your involvement accordingly, protecting your emotional well-being without resorting to bitterness or confrontation. 2. The silent partner, unilateral effort, and the echo of loneliness. Have you ever felt like the sole engine driving a relationship, constantly initiating contact, planning activities, and keeping the connection alive, only to wonder if the other person would even notice if you stopped? It's a disheartening sensation, like shouting into a void, met only with the echoing silence of indifference. This sign, they never reach out to you first, speaks to a fundamental imbalance in the relationship, a lack of reciprocity that can leave you feeling undervalued and emotionally depleted. It's about that gnawing feeling that you're the only one tending the garden of your friendship, while the other person simply enjoys the scenery. It's about the unspoken question that lingers in the air. If I stopped calling, would they even notice I was gone? It's not just about the inconvenience of always being the one to initiate. It's about the deeper message it conveys, that you're not a priority, that your presence is not actively sought, that your connection is not valued enough to warrant reciprocal effort. It's about feeling like a satellite in their orbit, always circling, never being drawn into the gravitational pull of their own initiative. The absence of initiation isn't always a sign of malicious intent. Sometimes it stems from shyness, introversion, or a genuine lack of awareness. The person might simply be accustomed to you taking the lead, or they might be struggling with their own insecurities that prevent them from reaching out. However, even in these cases, the lack of reciprocity can still be damaging to the relationship, creating a sense of imbalance and resentment. It's about feeling like your efforts are invisible, your presence taken for granted, your connection undervalued. Stoicism offers a powerful framework for navigating this challenging dynamic. One of the core principles of Stoicism is the acceptance of what we cannot control. We cannot force someone to reach out to us, to reciprocate our efforts, or to value our presence. However, we can control our own actions and our own reactions. Instead of dwelling on the other person's lack of initiative, Stoicism encourages us to focus on what we can do, to examine our own expectations, to communicate our needs, and to choose whether or not to continue investing in the relationship. This might involve stepping back and observing. Stop initiating contact and see what happens. Does the other person reach out? Do they express concern about your absence? Or does the silence continue, confirming your suspicions of a one-sided dynamic? This experiment can be a valuable source of information, providing clarity about the true nature of the relationship and guiding your future decisions. By ceasing to initiate, you create an opportunity for the other person to step up and demonstrate their commitment. If they fail to do so, it provides valuable insight into their level of interest and investment. It allows you to see the relationship for what it truly is, without the filter of your own efforts and expectations. This might also involve communicating your needs. Sometimes, people are simply unaware of the impact of their behavior. By expressing your feelings honestly and respectfully, you might give them the opportunity to understand your perspective and change their behavior. However, it's important to do so without expectation or judgment. Simply state your needs clearly and calmly, and then allow them to respond in their own way. Be prepared for the possibility that they might not be able or willing to meet your needs, and be ready to accept that outcome with grace. Ultimately, the decision of whether to continue investing in the relationship rests with you. If you have communicated your needs and the other person is unwilling or unable to reciprocate, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship altogether. It might mean adjusting your expectations, limiting contact, or simply accepting that the relationship will always be somewhat one-sided. It's about making a conscious choice to prioritize your own emotional well-being and to protect yourself from further disappointment. Remember, you are worthy of relationships that are characterized by reciprocity, mutual respect, and genuine care. You deserve to be with people who actively seek your company, who value your presence, and who are willing to invest in the connection. Don't settle for less. This is not about playing games or manipulating others. It's about observing their natural inclinations and gauging their genuine interest in maintaining the connection. It's about recognizing that a healthy relationship is a two-way street, where both parties actively contribute to its growth and sustenance. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus reminds us that it is not things that disturb men, but their judgments about things. The lack of initiation from another person is simply an external event. It is our judgment about that event that causes us distress. By challenging our assumptions and reframing our perspective, we can reduce our emotional suffering and respond to the situation with greater clarity and wisdom. We might realize that the person's lack of initiation is not a personal rejection, but simply a reflection of their own personality or circumstances. Or we might recognize that the relationship is not as important to them as it is to us, and that it's time to adjust our expectations accordingly. The key is to avoid making assumptions or drawing conclusions based solely on external behavior. Instead, focus on gathering information, communicating your needs, and making informed decisions about your own involvement in the relationship. It also involves a shift in focus from external validation to internal strength. Instead of seeking validation from others, cultivate a deep sense of self-worth that is independent of external approval. Recognize your own inherent value and believe that you are worthy of love and respect, regardless of whether or not others choose to reciprocate your efforts. This inner strength will protect you from the sting of rejection and empower you to choose relationships that are truly nourishing and fulfilling. Consider, for instance, the scenario of a long-distance friendship. The physical distance can naturally lead to a decrease in spontaneous interactions, making it even more crucial for both parties to actively initiate contact. If one person consistently bears the responsibility of bridging the gap, the relationship can easily wither from neglect. The lack of initiation, in this case, is not just a matter of personal preference. It becomes a critical indicator of the other person's commitment to maintaining the connection. Stoicism does not advocate for isolation or detachment from all relationships. Rather, it encourages a discerning approach to building and maintaining connections, prioritizing those that are grounded in mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care. It's about recognizing that not all relationships are created equal, and that some are simply not worth the emotional investment. The goal is not to become a cynical hermit, but to cultivate a circle of supportive and authentic relationships that enrich your life and contribute to your overall well-being. This requires a willingness to let go of relationships that are draining, one-sided, or based on superficiality. It's about making space for connections that are truly fulfilling, where both parties feel valued, respected, and supported. It is a powerful act of self-care that allows you to reclaim your time, energy, and emotional resources and redirect them towards relationships that are truly meaningful. Remember, the goal is not to judge or condemn others, but to protect your own well-being and create a life that is aligned with your values. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, you can navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. 3. The monologue artist, self-absorption, and the echo chamber of conversation. Have you ever been trapped in a conversation that feels more like a one-person performance, where the other person dominates the stage, holding court on their own experiences, achievements, and opinions, while your own thoughts and feelings are relegated to the role of a silent audience? It's a frustrating and isolating experience, one that leaves you feeling invisible, unheard, and ultimately unvalued. The "they only focus on themselves" sign is a glaring indicator of insincerity, revealing a lack of genuine interest in you as an individual and a tendency to view interactions as opportunities for self-promotion and validation. It's about feeling like you're merely a sounding board for their thoughts, a captive audience for their stories, a passive recipient of their self-centered narrative. It's not just about the occasional lapse in attentiveness. It's about a consistent pattern of self-absorption, where every conversation somehow circles back to them, their experiences, and their perspectives. The monologue artist often possesses a subtle but effective repertoire of conversational tactics. They might interrupt you frequently, change the subject abruptly, or simply glaze over when you attempt to share your own experiences. They might offer superficial gestures of interest, such as a perfunctory nod or a generic "that's interesting," but their body language and tone of voice betray a lack of genuine engagement. But it's not always a conscious act of malice. Sometimes it stems from a deep-seated insecurity or a lack of empathy. The person might be so preoccupied with their own struggles that they are simply unable to see or respond to the needs of others. Or they might be driven by a desperate need for validation, constantly seeking reassurance and approval from those around them. Whatever the underlying cause, the effect is the same: a feeling of invisibility and devaluation. This is where Stoicism provides a valuable framework for understanding and responding to this type of behavior. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control our own reactions. We cannot force someone to be interested in us, to listen to our stories, or to value our perspectives. However, we can choose how we respond to their self-absorption. One of the key strategies is to detach from the need for their validation. Recognize that their lack of interest is a reflection of their own inner state, not a reflection of your worth. Do not seek their approval or attempt to impress them. Instead, focus on cultivating your own self-worth and finding validation from within. This involves recognizing your own strengths and accomplishments, pursuing your passions, and surrounding yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and value you. It also means setting boundaries. You have the right to disengage from conversations that are draining or disrespectful. You do not have to sit and listen passively while someone drones on about themselves. You can politely excuse yourself, change the subject, or simply end the conversation. It is important to assert your own needs and protect your own emotional well-being. This requires assertiveness, not aggression. You can express your feelings calmly and respectfully, without blaming or judging the other person. For example, you might say, "I appreciate you sharing your experiences, but I also have something I'd like to share," or "I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed by this conversation, so I'm going to take a break." Remember, you have the right to set boundaries and protect your own emotional well-being. Stoicism also encourages us to practice empathy. Try to understand the underlying reasons for the person's self-absorption. Are they insecure? Are they seeking validation? Are they simply unaware of the impact of their behavior? By understanding their motivations, you can approach the situation with greater compassion and avoid taking their behavior personally. This doesn't mean that you have to tolerate their self-absorption. It simply means that you can respond with greater understanding and avoid fueling the cycle of negativity. You might even consider gently pointing out their behavior. If you feel comfortable doing so, you can address the issue directly, but do so with kindness and respect. For example, you might say, "I've noticed that our conversations tend to focus on you, and I'd appreciate it if we could make more of an effort to share the conversation equally." Be prepared for the possibility that they might not be receptive to your feedback. They might become defensive or dismissive. If this happens, it's important to disengage and protect your own emotional well-being. Ultimately, the decision of whether to continue the relationship rests with you. If you have set boundaries, communicated your needs, and practiced empathy, and the other person's behavior remains unchanged, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship altogether. It might mean limiting contact or simply accepting that the relationship will always be somewhat one-sided. It's about making a conscious choice to prioritize your own emotional well-being and to protect yourself from further disappointment. You are worthy of relationships that are characterized by reciprocity, mutual respect, and genuine care. You deserve to be with people who are genuinely interested in you, who listen to your stories, and who value your perspectives. Don't settle for less. The Stoic approach also emphasizes the importance of focusing on what we can control. We cannot control the actions of others, but we can control our own thoughts and reactions. Instead of dwelling on the other person's self-absorption, focus on cultivating your own inner strength and finding fulfillment in your own activities. Pursue your passions, engage in meaningful hobbies, and surround yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and value you. By focusing on your own well-being, you'll be less dependent on the validation of others and more resilient to the negativity of self-absorbed individuals. It is important to remember that true connection is a two-way street, where both parties feel heard, valued, and respected. If you find yourself consistently in the role of a passive listener, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This is not about judging or condemning others, but about protecting your own emotional well-being and creating space for relationships that are truly fulfilling. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, you can navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. 4. The selective listener. Forgetting and the devaluation of shared experiences. Have you ever shared a deeply personal story, a significant life event, or a cherished dream with someone, only to find that they seem to have completely forgotten about it the next time you meet? It's a jarring and disheartening experience, like casting a precious jewel into a bottomless well, never to be seen again. That they forget what you talk about sign is a subtle but powerful indicator of insincerity, revealing a lack of genuine investment in your life and a devaluation of your shared experiences. It's about feeling like your words are falling on deaf ears, your stories disappearing into a black hole, your presence fading into the background. It's not just about the occasional memory lapse. It's about a consistent pattern of forgetting important details, dates, or events that you have shared with them, suggesting a lack of attentiveness and a disregard for your personal narrative. The selective listener often employs a variety of subtle tactics to avoid engaging with your stories. They might change the subject abruptly, offer vague or generic responses, or simply glaze over when you attempt to bring up past conversations. They might claim to be bad with names or forgetful, but the underlying message is clear. Your stories are simply not important enough for them to remember. But it's not always a sign of malicious intent. Sometimes, it stems from a lack of empathy, a difficulty in understanding or relating to the experiences of others. The person might be so preoccupied with their own thoughts and feelings that they are simply unable to fully engage with your stories. Or they might be suffering from cognitive impairment or memory loss, making it genuinely difficult for them to retain information. Whatever the underlying cause, the effect is the same, a feeling of invisibility and devaluation. This is where Stoicism provides a valuable framework for understanding and responding to this type of behavior. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control the memories of others, but we can control our own reactions. We cannot force someone to remember our stories, to value our experiences, or to invest in our personal narrative. However, we can choose how we respond to their forgetfulness. One of the key strategies is to detach from the need for their validation. Recognize that their lack of memory is a reflection of their own inner state, not a reflection of your worth. Do not seek their approval or attempt to impress them with your stories. Instead, focus on cultivating your own self-worth and finding validation from within. This involves recognizing your own strengths and accomplishments, pursuing your passions, and surrounding yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and value you. It also means accepting the reality of the situation. Acknowledge that the person is simply not a good listener or that they have difficulty with memory. Do not dwell on their shortcomings or allow their forgetfulness to diminish your own self-worth. Instead, focus on finding other ways to share your stories and connect with people who are genuinely interested in listening. This might involve journaling, joining a support group, or seeking out friends who are known for their listening skills. It also means adjusting your expectations. Do not expect the person to remember every detail of your life. Instead, focus on sharing the most important and meaningful stories and experiences, and be prepared to repeat them as needed. Avoid getting frustrated or resentful when they forget, and instead, approach the situation with patience and understanding. Remember, you cannot control their memory, but you can control your own reactions. Stoicism also encourages us to practice empathy. Try to understand the underlying reasons for the person's forgetfulness. Are they stressed? Are they distracted? Are they suffering from cognitive impairment? By understanding their motivations, you can approach the situation with greater compassion and avoid taking their behavior personally. This doesn't mean that you have to tolerate their forgetfulness. It simply means that you can respond with greater understanding and avoid fueling the cycle of negativity. You might even consider gently reminding them of past conversations or providing them with context to help them remember. However, it is important to do so without being condescending or judgmental. Ultimately, the decision of whether to continue the relationship rests with you. If you have accepted their forgetfulness, adjusted your expectations, and practiced empathy, and you still feel undervalued and unheard, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship altogether. It might mean limiting contact or simply accepting that the relationship will always be somewhat superficial. It's about making a conscious choice to prioritize your own emotional well-being and to protect yourself from further disappointment. You are worthy of relationships that are characterized by reciprocity, mutual respect, and genuine care. You deserve to be with people who listen to your stories, who remember your experiences, and who value your personal narrative. Don't settle for less. The Stoic approach also emphasizes the importance of focusing on what we can control. We cannot control the memories of others, but we can control our own thoughts and reactions. Instead of dwelling on the other person's forgetfulness, focus on cultivating your own inner strength and finding fulfillment in your own activities. Pursue your passions, engage in meaningful hobbies, and surround yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and value you. By focusing on your own well-being, you'll be less dependent on the validation of others and more resilient to the negativity of forgetful individuals. It is important to remember that true connection is built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and genuine interest in each other's lives. If you find yourself consistently feeling unheard and undervalued, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This is not about judging or condemning others, but about protecting your own emotional well-being and creating space for relationships that are truly fulfilling. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, you can navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. 5. The conditional friend, self-interest, and the price of assistance. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where every interaction feels like a transaction, where the other person's kindness and attentiveness seem to be contingent on what you can offer them in return? It's a disheartening realization, like discovering that a seemingly generous gift comes with hidden strings attached. That they always want something from you sign is a clear indicator of insincerity, revealing a self-serving agenda and a lack of genuine care for your well-being. It's about feeling like you are being used, your resources exploited, your generosity taken for granted. It's not just about the occasional request for help. It's about a consistent pattern of seeking favors, advice, or assistance, often with little or no reciprocation, suggesting that your value is primarily determined by what you can provide. The conditional friend often employs a variety of subtle tactics to manipulate you into fulfilling their needs. They might shower you with compliments and flattery, feigning admiration and appreciation to lower your defenses. They might guilt you into helping them, playing on your sense of obligation or compassion. They might even resort to threats or intimidation, implying that your relationship will suffer if you refuse to comply with their demands. But it's not always a conscious act of manipulation. Sometimes it stems from a deep-seated insecurity or a lack of self-sufficiency. The person might genuinely believe that they are entitled to your help or that they are incapable of managing their own affairs. Or they might be driven by a fear of vulnerability, hesitant to ask for help from others and instead relying on you as a consistent source of support. Whatever the underlying cause, the effect is the same, a feeling of being used, exploited, and unappreciated. This is where Stoicism provides a valuable framework for understanding and responding to this type of behavior. Stoicism teaches us that we should be generous and helpful to others, but we should also be discerning and protect ourselves from exploitation. We should not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of or to be manipulated into fulfilling the needs of others at the expense of our own well-being. One of the key strategies is to set boundaries. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships and protecting ourselves from exploitation. They define what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior in your interactions with others, and they ensure that your needs are respected. Setting boundaries can be challenging, especially with people who are manipulative or demanding. You might fear hurting their feelings or damaging the relationship. However, it is important to remember that healthy boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships. They create clarity and respect, allowing both parties to feel safe and valued. You should learn to say no without feeling guilty or obligated. It is okay to prioritize your own needs and to decline requests that you're unable or unwilling to fulfill. It is important to be assertive and stand your ground, even if the other person becomes angry or upset. Remember, you have the right to protect your own well-being and to refuse to be exploited. Stoicism also encourages us to practice detachment. Detachment does not mean that we should be cold or indifferent to the needs of others. It means that we should not become emotionally attached to the outcome of our actions. We should help others out of a sense of duty and compassion, not out of a desire for their approval or gratitude. We should be prepared to accept the possibility that they might not reciprocate our efforts or that they might even take advantage of us. By detaching from a need for their validation, we can avoid feeling resentful or exploited. We can also maintain our own inner peace, even in the face of disappointment. Stoicism also encourages us to practice discernment. Discernment is the ability to distinguish between genuine needs and manipulative requests. It is the ability to see through the other person's facade and to understand their true motivations. When someone asks you for help, take the time to evaluate their request carefully. Ask yourself, is this a genuine need or a manipulative attempt to exploit me? Is this person willing to reciprocate my efforts? Am I able to fulfill this request without compromising my own well-being? If you have any doubts, it is okay to decline. Remember, you're not obligated to fulfill every request that comes your way. You have the right to protect your own resources and to prioritize your own needs. Ultimately, the decision of whether to continue the relationship rests with you. If you have set boundaries, practiced detachment, and exercised discernment, and you still feel used and exploited, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship altogether. It might mean limiting contact or simply accepting that the relationship will always be transactional. It's about making a conscious choice to prioritize your own emotional and financial well-being and to protect yourself from further exploitation. You are worthy of relationships that are characterized by reciprocity, mutual respect, and genuine care. You deserve to be with people who value you for who you are, not for what you can provide. Don't settle for less. The Stoic approach also emphasizes the importance of focusing on what we can control. We cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control our own thoughts and actions. Instead of dwelling on the other person's selfishness, focus on cultivating your own inner strength and finding fulfillment in your own activities. Pursue your passions, engage in meaningful hobbies, and surround yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and value you. By focusing on your own well-being, you will be less dependent on the validation of others and more resilient to the negativity of conditional friends. It is important to remember that true friendship is built on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine care for each other's well-being. If you find yourself consistently feeling used and exploited, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This is not about judging or condemning others, but about protecting your own emotional and financial well-being and creating space for relationships that are truly fulfilling. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, you can navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. 6. The Whisperer, Betrayal, and the Erosion of Trust. Have you ever discovered that someone you trusted, someone you confided in, has been spreading rumors, gossiping behind your back, and undermining your reputation? It's a devastating blow, like a dagger plunged into the heart of trust, leaving you reeling with pain, anger, and confusion. That they talk behind your back sign is a profound betrayal, revealing a deep-seated lack of respect, integrity, and loyalty. It's about feeling exposed, vulnerable, and violated, your private information shared and distorted without your knowledge or consent. It's not just about the specific details that are being discussed. It's about the breach of trust, the violation of confidence, the realization that someone you considered a friend or ally is actively working against you. The Whisperer often operates in secrecy, spreading rumors and gossip to mutual acquaintances, colleagues, or even strangers. They might disguise their malice with a veneer of concern, claiming to be just looking out for you or sharing information that you need to know. They might distort the truth, exaggerate minor incidents, or even fabricate outright lies to paint you in a negative light. But it's not always a conscious act of malice. Sometimes it stems from insecurity or jealousy. The person might feel threatened by your success or happiness and attempt to undermine you to elevate their own self-esteem. Or they might be driven by a need for attention, seeking to gain social currency by sharing scandalous or salacious information. Whatever the underlying cause, the effect is the same: damage to your reputation, erosion of trust, and a profound sense of betrayal. This is where Stoicism provides a valuable framework for understanding and responding to this type of behavior. Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control our own reactions. We cannot prevent people from gossiping about us or spreading rumors behind our backs. However, we can choose how we respond to their negativity. One of the key strategies is to detach from the need for their approval. Recognize that their gossip is a reflection of their own inner state, not a reflection of your worth. Do not seek their approval or attempt to defend yourself against their accusations. Instead, focus on cultivating your own self-worth and finding validation from within. This involves recognizing your own strengths and accomplishments, pursuing your passions, and surrounding yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and value you. It also means accepting that there will always be people who dislike or disapprove of you. You cannot please everyone, and attempting to do so is a recipe for misery. Instead, focus on living in accordance with your own values and principles and let go of the need for external validation. Stoicism also encourages us to focus on what we can control. We cannot control what others say about us, but we can control how we respond to their words. We can choose to ignore their gossip, to confront them directly, or to take legal action, depending on the severity of the situation. However, it is important to choose your battles wisely. Not every rumor or insult deserves a response. Sometimes, the best course of action is to simply let it go and refuse to give the gossipers the attention they crave. If you do choose to confront the gossiper, it is important to do so calmly and respectfully. Avoid getting angry or emotional. Simply state your concerns clearly and assertively, and ask them to stop spreading rumors about you. Be prepared for the possibility that they might deny their actions or become defensive. If this happens, it is important to disengage and protect your own well-being. Do not allow yourself to be drawn into an argument or to be manipulated into accepting responsibility for their behavior. It's not your fault that they're choosing to gossip about you, and you're not responsible for changing their behavior. Stoicism also encourages us to practice forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean that we condone the gossiper's actions or that we forget what they have done. It means that we release the anger and resentment that we are holding onto and choose to move forward with greater peace and clarity. Forgiveness is not for the benefit of the gossiper. It is for our own benefit. It frees us from the burden of negativity and allows us to heal and move on with our lives. Ultimately, the decision of whether to continue the relationship rests with you. If you have confronted the gossiper, practiced forgiveness, and accepted their behavior, and you still feel betrayed and hurt, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship altogether. It might mean limiting contact or simply accepting that the relationship will always be strained. It's about making a conscious choice to prioritize your own emotional well-being and to protect yourself from further betrayal. You are worthy of relationships that are characterized by honesty, respect, and loyalty. You deserve to be with people who support you, not undermine you. Don't settle for less. The Stoic approach also emphasizes the importance of focusing on our own character. We cannot control the actions of others, but we can control our own virtue. We can choose to be honest, compassionate, and respectful in all of our interactions with others, regardless of how they treat us. By focusing on our own moral character, we can build a reputation for integrity that will protect us from the harm caused by gossip and rumors. It is important to remember that our actions speak louder than words. If we live in accordance with our values and treat others with kindness and respect, our actions will eventually dispel the lies and rumors spread by gossipers. In the end, the truth will always prevail. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, you can navigate the complexities of betrayal with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. You'll be able to detach from their opinions and protect yourself from future betrayal. 7. The chameleon. Inconsistency and the shifting sands of personality. Have you ever encountered someone who seems to change their personality to suit the company they're keeping, adopting different mannerisms, opinions, and even values depending on who they're with? It's a disconcerting experience, like watching a chameleon shift its colors to blend seamlessly into its surroundings. The "they act differently with different people" sign is a glaring indication of insincerity, revealing a lack of core identity and a tendency to prioritize external validation over genuine self-expression. It's about feeling like you are never seeing the real person, but rather a carefully constructed persona designed to impress or manipulate those around them. It's not just about adapting to social situations. It's about a fundamental inconsistency in their behavior, a lack of authenticity that makes it difficult to trust their motives or believe in their words. The chameleon often possesses a remarkable ability to mimic the traits and preferences of others. They might adopt the slang of a particular social group, express enthusiasm for activities they previously scorned, or even change their political opinions to align with those of their audience. They are masters of social camouflage, blending seamlessly into any environment and adapting their behavior to maximize their perceived advantages. But it's not always a conscious act of deception. Sometimes it stems from a deep-seated insecurity or a lack of self-awareness. The person might genuinely believe that they need to change themselves to be accepted or loved. Or they might be so disconnected from their own inner voice that they simply adopt the opinions and values of those around them without critical reflection. Whatever the underlying cause, the effect is the same: a lack of authenticity and a difficulty in trusting their motives. This is where Stoicism provides a valuable framework for understanding and responding to this type of behavior. Stoicism teaches us that we should strive to live in accordance with our own values and principles, regardless of what others may think or say. We should not allow ourselves to be swayed by external pressures or to compromise our integrity for the sake of approval or acceptance. One of the key strategies is to cultivate self-awareness. Take the time to reflect on your own values, beliefs, and principles. Understand what is important to you and what you stand for. Develop a strong sense of self-identity that is independent of external validation. This involves exploring your interests, pursuing your passions, and engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. It also means being honest with yourself about your own strengths and weaknesses. Acknowledge your imperfections and strive to improve yourself, but do not try to become someone that you are not. Stoicism also encourages us to practice authenticity. Authenticity is the state of being true to oneself. It means expressing your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs honestly and openly, without fear of judgment or rejection. It means being comfortable in your own skin and embracing your unique personality. It does not mean being rude or inconsiderate, but it does mean being genuine and sincere in your interactions with others. Authenticity can be challenging, especially in a society that often pressures us to conform to certain norms and expectations. However, it is essential for building meaningful relationships and living a fulfilling life. People are drawn to authenticity. When you're genuine and sincere, you create a safe space for others to be themselves. You attract people who value you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. Stoicism also encourages us to practice acceptance. Accept that not everyone will like or approve of you. Accept that there will always be people who criticize or judge you. Do not try to change their minds or to win their approval. Instead, focus on living in accordance with your own values and principles and let go of the need for external validation. Remember, you cannot control the opinions of others, but you can control your own actions. By living authentically and treating others with kindness and respect, you can build a reputation for integrity that will attract people who value you for who you are. Ultimately, the decision of whether to continue the relationship rests with you. If you have cultivated self-awareness, practiced authenticity, and accepted the person's behavior, and you still feel uneasy or distrustful, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship altogether. It might mean limiting contact or simply accepting that the relationship will always be superficial. It's about making a conscious choice to prioritize your own emotional well-being and to protect yourself from further disappointment. You are worthy of relationships that are characterized by honesty, integrity, and genuine care. You deserve to be with people who value you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. Don't settle for less. The Stoic approach also emphasizes the importance of focusing on what we can control. We cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control our own thoughts and actions. Instead of dwelling on the chameleon's insincerity, focus on cultivating your own inner strength and finding fulfillment in your own activities. Pursue your passions, engage in meaningful hobbies, and surround yourself with people who genuinely appreciate and value you. By focusing on your own well-being, you'll be less dependent on the validation of others and more resilient to the negativity of inauthentic individuals. It is important to remember that true connection is built on honesty, integrity, and a genuine appreciation for each other's unique personalities. If you find yourself consistently feeling uneasy or distrustful, it might be time to reevaluate the dynamic. This is not about judging or condemning others, but about protecting your own emotional well-being and creating space for relationships that are truly fulfilling. By embracing the principles of Stoicism, you can navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. Conclusion: the fortress within and the path to authentic connection. In navigating the intricate labyrinth of human relationships, the ability to discern sincerity from insincerity is a skill of paramount importance. The 7 signs we've explored, the absent friend, the silent partner, the monologue artist, the selective listener, the conditional friend, the whisperer, and the chameleon, serve as valuable guideposts, illuminating the potential pitfalls of deception and manipulation. However, recognizing these signs is only the first step. The true challenge lies in cultivating the inner strength and resilience to navigate these treacherous waters, protect our hearts, and ultimately live a life grounded in authenticity and peace. As we've seen, Stoicism provides a powerful framework for achieving this goal. By embracing the principles of self-awareness, acceptance, detachment, and authenticity, we can build a fortress within that is impervious to the negativity of others. We can learn to detach from a need for external validation, to prioritize our own values and principles, and to find fulfillment in our own activities. We can also learn to set healthy boundaries, to communicate our needs assertively, and to choose our relationships wisely. Ultimately, the journey towards authentic connection is a journey of self-discovery. It requires us to examine our own motivations, to understand our own vulnerabilities, and to cultivate a deep and unwavering sense of self-worth. It requires us to be honest with ourselves about our own strengths and weaknesses and to strive to live in accordance with our own values and principles. It is a journey that is well worth undertaking, for it leads to a life that is richer, more meaningful, and more fulfilling. By embracing the wisdom of Stoicism and cultivating our own inner strength, we can navigate the complexities of human relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and ultimately, live a life grounded in authenticity and inner peace. It will not be easy, but is well worth it in the end. This is a very rough draft and would need further editing and refining to feel truly polished and cohesive. Additionally, producing 40% original video content would be required to comply with YouTube's fair use policy, as well as the need to create a good video with proper editing, animations, music and sound effects, and more. Also, the essay is likely not 20,000 words long, and further expansion may be required.